It's June 2010, in an office in Minsk, Belarus. An engineer named Sergei Ulasin opens a support ticket from a client in Iran. A computer there keeps restarting itself. Nobody can say why. This is how it unfolded. Ulasin works for Virus Block Ada, a small antivirus company most of the security world has never heard of. The machine in Iran reboots, then reboots again. He starts pulling the system apart. What he finds is a piece of software that should not exist. It is spreading through removable drives, using a flaw in the way Windows displays shortcut icons. The machine does not need to run anything. Opening a folder is enough, and it is loading a driver that Windows accepts without complaint. It is about 500 kilobytes. For malware in 2010, that is enormous. Most of it is not code that does anything obvious. It is code that hides other code, and buried inside are 4 zero-day exploits. A zero-day is a flaw nobody has found yet. No patch exists because the vendor does not know it is there. They are rare, and they are expensive. Criminal malware typically uses none. Serious criminal malware uses one. This program burns 4 of them at once, on a single operation, knowing that every one it uses is one it can never use again. So whoever wrote this was not being careful with money. They were being careful with time. The program does not steal data. It does not spy. It does not ask for money. It goes looking for one specific thing, and about 2,000 miles south of that reboot loop, that thing is spinning. Natanz is Iran's uranium enrichment facility. Inside it are thousands of IR-1 centrifuges, tall metal cylinders that spin at enormous speed to separate isotopes. Uranium comes out of the ground as a mixture. The useful part is a fraction of a percent of it. Separating that fraction means spinning the material until the heavier atoms drift outward, then passing what remains to the next machine, and the next, hundreds of times over. The centrifuges are arranged in cascades and run continuously for months. By the 16th of November 2009, according to quarterly reports from the EA, Iran had reached a peak of 8,692 centrifuges installed there. They are also fragile. An IR-1 rotor spins near the limit of what the metal will tolerate. Run it slightly outside its design range and it does not stop. It wobbles, and then it tears itself apart. The control systems at Natanz are not connected to the internet, not through a firewall, not through a filtered gateway. They are physically disconnected. No cable runs from those machines to the outside world. In industrial security, this is called an air gap, and for decades it was considered the end of the argument. You cannot reach across empty space. So how do you attack a machine that is not connected to anything? You do not. You wait for someone to carry you in. An air gap stops data from traveling down a wire. It does nothing about data traveling in a pocket. Engineers still need software updates. Contractors still need drawings and configuration files. All of it moves in and out of the facility on removable drives, carried by people with badges and legitimate reasons to be there. The worm was seeded into engineering firms working with Natanz. Then it waited for someone to plug a USB drive into a machine on the other side of the gap. The cheapest object in the room defeated the most expensive defense in the building. Getting inside is not the same as being trusted. Windows checks whether a driver is signed by a company it recognizes. So the worm arrives carrying valid digital certificates stolen from Realtek and J Micron. Both companies are headquartered in Hesan-Chu Science Park in Taiwan. Both certificates were later revoked by VeriSign, but by then, the worm had been waved through thousands of times. Note what that theft required. Not remote intrusion into 2 random firms, but working credentials from 2 neighbors in the same technology park. Now it spreads, and this is where it stops behaving like malware and starts behaving like a weapon. It copies itself widely, but it activates almost nowhere. It is looking for Siemens Step 7 software, controlling frequency converter drives built by Vacon in Finland or Ferraro Paya in Iran, running between 807 and 1210 Hz. That combination exists in very few places on Earth. On anything else, it sits still and does nothing at all. Then it finds a match. The worm does not shut the centrifuges down. It changes how fast they spin. It pushes the rotor frequency up to 1410 Hz and holds it there for 15 minutes. Then it drops the speed to 2 Hz. Then it raises it to 1064 Hz for 50 minutes. Then it sets everything back to normal and waits 27 days before doing it again. Nothing explodes. The machines are simply asked to do something they were never built to do, at intervals too far apart to look like a pattern. Metal that spends months being accelerated and decelerated outside its tolerances does not fail all at once. It fatigues. And while this is happening, the control room sees nothing. Before the attack sequence begins, the worm records the readings from a normal operating cycle. During the sabotage, it plays that recording back to the monitoring systems. The operators are watching real screens fed by fake data. A man-in-the-middle attack on the sensor signals themselves, as Symantec's dossier on the worm describes it. The rotor speeds on the display are accurate. They are just not from now. This is the detail that turns sabotage into something worse. A facility that knows it is under attack starts looking for an attacker. A facility whose instruments say everything is fine starts looking for its own mistakes. Iranian engineers spent months auditing suppliers, procedures, and staff, hunting for a fault in equipment that was being destroyed on schedule. Consider what that does to a workforce. Centrifuges keep failing. The instruments say the centrifuges are fine. Somebody has to be responsible, and every explanation available points inward. Bad parts, bad handling, bad people. The worm did not only break the machines, it made the people running them distrust each other. So what did it actually do to Natanz? Between late 2009 and early 2010, Iran decommissioned and replaced roughly 1,000 centrifuges at the facility. That figure comes from the Institute for Science and International Security, in a report by David Albright, Paul Brannan, and Christina Walrond, published on the 22nd of December 2010, working from EIA inspection data. It is worth being precise about how uncertain this is. The widely quoted number of 984 machines came from media reporting. Iran never confirmed it, and the ISIS report itself notes that the IAEA does not appear able to make an estimate that exact. The worm's other effect was not aimed at anyone. It escaped. It spread to more than 200,000 computers worldwide. 58.9% of infections in Iran, 18.2% in Indonesia, 8.3% in India. On almost every one of those machines it did nothing, because the configuration did not match. But it was there, and it was visible, and eventually it turned up on a client machine belonging to a small antivirus company in Minsk. The same mechanism that carried it in carried it out. A weapon that travels by USB drive cannot be told where to stop, which leaves the question everyone assumes has been answered. In June 2012, David Sanger of the New York Times published a detailed account of a campaign codenamed Olympic Games, begun under President Bush, expanded under President Obama, run jointly by the United States and Israel, based on interviews with current and former American officials. That reporting is now the standard account. It is repeated as common knowledge, but no government has ever officially acknowledged building it. Not the United States, not Israel. Retired General Michael Hayden, former director of both the CIA and the NSA, was asked about it on television in 2012 and said he would neither confirm nor deny it. The most consequential cyber attack in history is attributed on the strength of investigative journalism, not on the strength of an admission. It did not steal anything. It did not stay where it was put, and it did not disappear. The worm carried an expiry date. On the 24th of June 2012, it stopped working, but the code was already public by then, taken apart line by line in security courses and conference talks. The blueprint did not expire. It is still online, and anyone can read it.